Good day and welcome to this episode of Technology Enhanced Learning, the show that features brief summaries about research and innovation in the area of computer-based education. I am your host, Judith Rodrigo from the Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines. Our guest today is Dr. Fu Yun Yu, Distinguished Professor of National Cheng Kung University Institute of Education in Taiwan. Dr. Yu specializes in innovative teaching, learning, and assessment strategies and online learning. She was past president of the Asia-Pacific Society for Computers and Education and is currently one of the editors-in-chief of the APSCE journal, Research and Practice in Technology Enhanced Learning. She is also the president of the Taiwan Association for Educational Communication and Technology. She has been recognized by many national and international organizations for her research and teaching performance. These include the Ministry of Science and Technology in Taiwan Outstanding Researcher Award, the Asia-Pacific Society for Computers and Education Distinguished Researcher Award, National Cheng Kung University Outstanding and Excellent Teaching Award, and Honorary Scholar of the K.T. Lee Technology and Humanity Foundation, among others. Thank you, Dr. Yu, for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We wanted to devote this episode to your work on student question generation. And I think this is a very important area because sometimes helping our students ask good questions is a really big way to help them learn. So could you start off by telling us what student question generation is and why it's important?
Okay, first of all, thank you, Didis, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful line of speakers. I'm really honored. And let me start off by giving a very brief definition of student question generation. Student question generation entails engaging students in the process of reflecting on their recently exposed learning experiences, that be in in-class instructional sessions, lab activity, or outdoor field trips about what they personally view as important, relevant, or interesting, and then generate questions with answers on those identified areas for self or peer learning and assessment. As can be understood, doing so naturally prompts self-reflection and meaning-making on the part of students. And what is more to it is that when students are engaged in question generation, they are induced into a habitual state of mobilizing and employing various efficacious cognitive and metacognitive strategies, including rehearsal, organization, elaboration, planning, monitoring, evaluation, revision, and a battery of self-regulated learning behaviors such as time management and help seeking. To briefly explain, to ensure successful task completion, the rehearsal and organization strategies will be activated as students will need to go through the learning material so as to identify worth noting areas for question generation. And further, to ensure that questions of adequate difficulty and discrimination level can be generated, the elaboration strategy will most likely be called for by building linkages among the related area, either within the current study content or to prior units. Additionally, to ensure successful question generation, task completion, and attainment, students will need to plan for the effective and efficient learning path and task tackling strategy, continuously monitor their level of understanding, evaluate their progress, and make revisions of the adaptive learning path and strategy when the outcomes are not as satisfactory as they originally planned for. As can be seen, student question generation empowers students in becoming active learners, reflective thinkers, and knowledge constructors, which have been highlighted as the pivotal educational goals by many advanced countries and international organizations. And in fact, a wealth of empirical studies has generally substantiated the beneficial effects of student question generation for the promotion of students' various cognitive, affective, and social learning.
Thank you. You built an online learning environment that actually supports student question generation. Can you tell us a little about this system and what the kind of support that it provides to the students?
Oh, okay, gladly to do so. In fact, a set of explicit principles was established to guide the design and development of our system. And among this, providing educationally sound scaffolding of various types for students as well as teachers lies at the heart of our system. Specifically, noting that most students lack prior experience in question generation, perceive the test as difficult, and had a concern about their capability and ability at the test. We devised a set of generic question stamps and other types of scaffolding in our system for the teacher's consideration for inclusion in their classroom. Our devised sets of scaffolds aims not only to avoid students posing low cognitive level questions, but also to help direct their attention to various aspects that the study content may deal with or can be related to. Of course, as can be expected, with the support of computer and network technology, the provided scaffolds can be adjusted in an easy, timely, and flexible fashion according to the student's current learning status or the teacher's instructional plan. In other words, the scaffolds to be provided at what time, in what form, at what level of details and explicitness, and even at what time to be withdrawn can all be executed with precision as intended by the individual teacher. And furthermore, to leverage the power of community of learners and to ensure scalability and sustainability, our system adopts an integrated structure. Explicitly, on top of our core student question generation function, 3 ancillary functions are built in. They are peer assessment, peer viewing, and drill and practice. With the integrated approach, rather than relying heavily on the teacher's intense involvement, the quality of student general questions can be promoted with the accompanied peer assessment and peer viewing functions, and the question that passing the peer assessment process can be further used by the entire learning community. And moreover, to ensure and to create a more vibrant and versatile learning space, variability is another design concept and a design principle to guide the design and development of our system. We'll simply point out a few here for illustrative purposes. For student question generation, question types most frequently used in classroom, in K-12 and higher education classrooms are supported in our system. For peer and assessments, in addition to the one-way mode, which only allow the assessor to give feedback to the question author, but does not allow the question author to communicate back to the assessor about the agreement or disagreement with the provided comments and ratings, two-way and multi-way modes are supported in our system and can be made available to students when further communication either between pairs of the individual assessor and the question author, or among all assessors involved in the same question and the question author is perceived to be beneficial for students' interaction and as perceived by the implementing teacher. And the identity of the respective question author and assessor can be arranged as either revealed by the display of nickname or real name, or concealed by anonymous interaction, and it is determined by the teacher or even individual students when the self-choice option is turned on by the teacher. And finally, customizability is another design concept we strive for. So almost all functions and designs in our system can be dynamically adjusted by the teacher and some by the students. In short, with the integrated structure, educationally sound scaffolding of various types, variability and customizability, versatile online student question generation activities can be arranged as deemed optimal for teaching and learning, easily and flexibly by individual teachers, our students in our system.
Thank you. One of the studies that you conducted was with pre-service teachers, and we understand why it is important for pre-service teachers to become very good at good question formulation. Is learning how to ask questions important to other disciplines as well?
Equipping students with the skills and disposition should not only be viewed and to be regarded as important and relevant for teacher education. In our opinion, it should be regarded as an important practice, skill, and disposition to be valued and highlighted in many, if not all, disciplines.
Thank you, Fuyun. Maybe as a last question, for those of us who don't have access to your online learning system, what are some of the findings or takeaways from your work that we can apply to our classrooms?
That is such a valid and great question. On the basis of our research finding, under time constraint, 3 such suggestions will be offered here. First and foremost, noting that most students lack prior experience in question generation activities, perceive the test as difficult, and are concerned about their capability and performance at the task. Providing educationally sound scaffoldings of various types for student question generation would be essential. Based on our extensive literature review on questioning and other related areas, we compile a list of 7 scaffolding types, each with distinctive uses for student question generation. They are signal words, main ideas, question types, story grammar category, the answer is, but important that, and generic question stem. Despite that, such supports cannot be provided as flexibly and conveniently as our system does. They can still, any selected scaffolds selected by the teacher can still be provided by teacher by putting them in any online platform the teacher chooses to use, or simply in a paper-based format, so as to achieve the optimal learning effects of student question generation. And secondly, as attested by our study, immediate scaffolding rather than delayed scaffolding led to immediate elevated question generation performance for students with no prior experience in question generation. As such, teachers are advised to provide scaffolding at the onset of student question generation activities, rather than wait until students are exposed to the activity for some time to avoid unproductive floundering and frustration on the part of students and less satisfactory question generation performance. And finally, as confirmed by our study, there are immediate learning gains to be obtained from students' online viewing of peer-generated questions. As such, even without easy online access to peer-generated questions as afforded by our system, as an alternative, teachers are advised to select and highlight some exemplars of student-generated questions at the beginning stage, likely during the whole class feedback session, so that their students can still benefit from observational learning.
All right, thank you. You know, I particularly like what you said about sharing how peers ask questions, because I think, you know, learning to ask good questions is a skill in itself, and I completely agree with your point that it helps develop you know, reflective thinkers, and I think that having other students model good question asking is one very good way to learn. But
Yeah.
so thank you so much for sharing your work with us today. And once again, we're very, very honored to have you on the channel. And I hope to see you face to face.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's been quite some time.
It has been, and I hope that our next ICCE will succeed in being face to face.
Yeah. Keep our fingers crossed.